What is up? I'm joined tonight by beautiful Black Box. He'll be back in a minute. I think he's trying to share the link that, I took forever to get for him. But anyway, I have the amazing Mr. Agitator from V is for Villains. Nick. Yeah. If I had sponsors, I'd play the commercials right now while he seems to be having a technical issue or something or other. Yeah, sponsor me, please. Okay, so, yeah, Nick.
Somebody help!
There you are.
Hey!
Oh my goodness!
Hi.
We broke it. We broke it already.
I know. That's just like looking up my nose the whole time. I'm just like texting.
No,
like
we couldn't see you at all. We had a beautiful black box, and that's all we had.
Hot.
All right.
Okay.
So,
getting
tell
set
everyone
up.
watching who you are and what you do.
My name is Adele, and
okay.
I'm Mr. Agitator. I'm the lead singer-songwriter for V is for Villains.
Yes, you are. And what is your favorite tour snack?
Tour snack?
Yeah. You're out on the road. What snack are you going to?
That's hard. Whatever I can afford that day. No. For years, we ate combos on tour. I feel like combos are a little bit hardier than just like chips. And, it became kind of a thing for us because we did a tour in 2006 with Raymond Watts and Pig. And, he used to tell me all the time, he'd say, Angel and Jason have these pretzels with cheese in them and they're disgusting. And I was like, combos. And he was like, yes, disgusting. And I was like, I eat the combos. What's wrong with the combos? So I think that's my tour snack of choice sometimes. I don't know. It varies, man. It varies.
All right. Everyone's got one of these stories. Tell me a story about food that you ate on the road that didn't go well.
Ooh, that didn't go well. I've been pretty lucky. I haven't had a lot of that. I've been touring for a long time, and I don't think I've ever had a personal story, but my drummer for Digital Mindy, Justin Abear, childhood friend, great drummer. We were doing a tour with a band called Project 44, and they were on, trying to remember what the record label was. But anyway, we went on tour with them a long time ago, back in like 2005 into 2006. And my drummer, Justin, got some coleslaw from KFC, and it wrecked him. He was like, we were playing in El Paso that night, and he was in the bathroom just puking his guts out, and I felt really bad. So, I tried to get out of the show because he seemed like really sick. And it was sad because the show was packed. It was, it was a good night. And I went up to the guy. He was like this guy in a cowboy hat. I don't remember his name, but he was running the venue. It was a beautiful venue. And I went up to him and I was just like, hey, man, my drummer, he's really sick. And he looked at me and he was like, well, I do understand. However, there's a show that has to be had. And I was like, oh, shit. we're not getting out of this. I'm doing the show. Poor Justin, we're going to have to like string him up like a scarecrow or something, He was, he was a trooper and he got through what he could. But he had a bucket. He had a puke bucket next to him on stage. And he was just jamming and just would lean over and just blah and just keep playing. And I tried to choose. It was horrible. I tried to choose songs that were slower and maybe wouldn't be as bad, and I'd like lean back to him, you doing okay, man? You doing okay? He'd be like, oh, and just bam, Chuck again. So, we played about 5 songs, and then he got up and just left. And I was like, well, we're Digital Mindy. Good night, free CDs for everybody. And they were like, woo! So I think that's the closest I've come to getting really sick on tour. I can't think of any time that I was like super food poison or anything like that.
You're lucky on that one.
Yes, I am.
Justice had to watch us from YouTube. I don't know why you couldn't watch us on the Book of Faces, but all right. All right. If you were a salad, what kind of dressing would it have?
Blue cheese. No. If I was a fucking salad dressing,
yeah,
I'd probably be ranch dressing.
Okay.
I think that's what I'd be. I mean, it seems like a choice that I would make.
Okay.
Yeah. I like to dip everything in ranch. I like to dip. That sounds fucked up. I like to dip it all in ranch. It's the next album. It's the sounds of me dipping shit in ranch.
All right.
So, yes.
All right. So when you're gonna, you book a show, how do you decide what songs you're going to play and what's the programming process for it look like?
Okay. So, that's a good question, and that's always tough. So I design the shows, obviously. Right. For me, I like to think of the audience, the ebb and flow for them, like what it is that they're gonna enjoy. Like, and I mean that sincerely, because I know, a lot of musicians, a lot of bands that kind of, they want to entertain themselves on stage, I think, more than they want to entertain the crowd sometimes. And we don't really follow that. To me, I put a lot of thought and consideration into how we build our shows and how they're going to run. I stress test them a lot. Morgan Dark and I, we will go over the set over and over and over and over again together, and we will see how it feels. And we'll, if something just feels like it's dragging, or we get rid of it, we change it with something else. So typically when we walk out there and we're getting ready to do a show, we've played that song hundreds of times at that point. Right. We're very well versed in it. I'm not saying that mistakes may not happen, but that's the biggest process for me, is I decide what show I want to present for the weekend. So like if we're doing a convention, like if we're doing something like a Dragon Con, or we're doing something like, an Anime Magic or Colossal Con, we're going to, I'm going to think a little bit differently for each event. If I was doing a horror show, I'm going to do a little bit more dark, If I'm doing an anime con, I'm going to lean a little bit more into the pop stuff. That's typically how I like to think about it. And I think that you can build a set that entertains you as a performer, but also the crowd. Right. But that's my number one priority, is making sure that it's fun for everybody that comes to the show, because, I get tired of hearing myself. So,
Right.
I don't want to hear myself sing again. It's the last thing I want.
Well, so you're not driving down the road just listening to your own albums all the time?
Yeah, that's what I do all the time. I just dress like this, listening to me. And when I pull up next to people, I'm like, he's good, right? That me. And that's what I tell them. No, I don't do any of that shit. But, that's typically the selection for me. The selection process is okay. And then I like to cycle things in that we haven't played for a while. Right. Maybe do a remix of it, do different cuts of it. I know we recently did a Broken Doll that's very different.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you haven't heard it yet. But yeah, we've been hammering away at that probably for the next string of shows. So there's always stuff like that in the works that we're considering. And when you're a band that's been around for a little bit, like we have, you have a lot of material to choose from, which is great. I love having more material than less material, so that's a really cool thing.
All right. If you could go back and tell little baby Mr. Agitator one thing, what would you tell him?
Cheese grater.
Cheese grater?
That's a segue into a story that I can share with everybody. I've been telling everybody at the conventions this story because it's so stupid. So, I was in bed. Morgan Dark and I were lying in bed. Ooh. And I was laying on my side, and she was behind me. and
Mhm.
I fell asleep. I have a tendency to drift into sleep really quick, and when I'm out, like I sometimes don't know I'm asleep.
Mhm.
I think I'm really there because my dreams will translate into reality like in synchro. So like I will literally be dreaming I'm laying in bed,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So anything that happens is like it just goes. And this happens to me sometimes.
Mhm.
So, you know, it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I was laying in bed, Morgan Dark was behind me. And, you know, because I'm an idiot and I'm always fucking around, I was
Mhm.
like backing up to her in my dream. And I was like, back it up, back it up. And then I looked up and I was like, am I right, Zordon? And Zordon was just there at the foot of my bed.
Okay.
And this didn't bother me at all. It was when he looked at me and he said, cheese grater. And I was like, hold on, what? Not at all bothered by Zordon, immensely bothered by the fact that he said cheese grater. I was like, you're not making any sense, Zordon. You know? So that dream stuck with me, and I took that dream and I told it, of course, to Sarah because I guess I woke up and I was like, I'm not
Speak of the
saying
devil,
that.
there she is.
Hey, there she is. I said, I'm not saying that. And she was like, saying what? I was like talking in my sleep. It was so stupid. And I explained the dream to her. It became this big joke. And now at the conventions, kids are running up to me and saying, cheese grater. I'm like,
That's great.
you know. So if I could tell baby Mr. Agitator one thing, it would be cheese grater.
All right.
And also watch out for the scorpions.
Scorpions.
We'll get there later. Continue.
All right. All right. Let's see. How did you like come up with the rotating member structure with villains? Because I feel like that's something that you don't see very often. So I'm just,
Yeah,
yeah, how'd
okay,
you come up with doing that?
for sure. Well, you know, it's funny. We started villains a while ago. I started villains a while ago.
Right.
I think it was around 2010 that I started working on the project. I had Digital Mindy for a long time, and Digital Mindy's last album was called Meet Mr. Agitator, right?
Right.
That was the last song I wrote for Digital Mindy was called Meet Mr. Agitator, which is
Mm-hmm.
where I got the name. But, you know, I toured on Digital Mindy and we played on Digital Mindy for a long time. I started writing songs for it when I was 15. I broke my back. I needed something to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was in excruciating pain. I was pretty much paralyzed. It was a really difficult run for me as a teenager. And, you know, I started writing songs, I think maybe as a coping mechanism. I'm not really
Mm-hmm.
sure. I just started hammering song after song after song out. And it meant a
Right.
lot to me. It gave me purpose. And I found that I enjoyed doing it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Having said that, we don't come from money. We don't come from connections. There's no
Right.
industry insiders, nothing like that. You know, everything that we have, we had to work for. Everything that I have, I had to work for, you know, and very hard for it. You know, I think my father was always extremely supportive and he was always a
Mm-hmm.
big believer in what I was doing. And he's always been like the unnamed member of each band for sure.
Right.
He's always been super involved and super supportive. And he's just a great guy and he's an immense talent in his own right, obviously. So, you know, I uh I did Digital Mindy for about 10 years. I did it for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. We toured, we had deals with MTV, we were on movies and TV shows. We did a lot of stuff and we stayed independent the whole time, which was always my goal. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to sign. You know, I had some label interest in the mid 2000s from some indies and some and
Mm-hmm.
a larger label. And you know, I had an attorney look it all over and they said just don't you dare sign it. You know, they're basically going to take your song popular, they're going to give it to somebody else and they're going to dissolve your band.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, that sucks. I don't want to do
Mm,
that.
yeah.
And then when I learned the structure of the major label at the time and the indie label at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which was, you know, you're basically taking out a big loan and you don't make anything, and it's just like unless you pay it all back, and then it has interest compounded. I was like, screw that. That just sounds like
Yeah.
irrelevant. By 2000 standards, that was pretty irrelevant model at that point. You could distribute yourself. Maybe you're
Exactly.
not going to hit 10 million people most of the time without funding, without backing,
Right.
you know. But my aim was never to be famous. I didn't care about that. So, you know, to me, I said, okay, I'm going to stay independent, own my stuff, and continue to do it. And I did it for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bottom kind of fell out. I did a headlining show at the Metro in Chicago that was a CD release party for Meet Mr. Agitator in 2009. And, you know, this was still when CDs were more viable in
Mm-hmm.
terms of sales and revenue. And I worked on that album for 2 years. I'm not saying it's my best work, but what I am saying is it was disappointing to see that we sold, I think, 700 or 800 tickets that night.
Mm-hmm.
We were the headliners. That was our crowd.
Right.
And we sold maybe 12, 13 CDs.
What?
Yeah.
That's
I didn't know
crazy.
that. Well, I grabbed one of the
Crazy.
kids who used to come to the shows, and I said, "You tell me why I only sold 12 CDs tonight. What do you know that I don't?" And he said, "Oh, we all have it." And I was like, "What do you mean?"
What?
He was like, "Oh, I downloaded it on LimeWire a week ago." And I
Oh.
was like, "Oh God," because you had to send the album out to press for
Mm-hmm.
review, and somebody that I sent it to took it and uploaded it, and then spread, and they were all listening. The artist in me is happy they're listening. The
Right.
person who has to pay his rent, not so happy. Standing there
Yeah,
going,
for
well,
sure.
and I remember that being a big eye opener to me. I said, okay, I think that the business has changed, the models have changed. Plus, I think in Digital Mindy, the band and I, we were all like best friends, brothers,
Right.
like mostly. It was a pretty consistent lineup for almost 8 years, and that was for the better and sometimes for the worst. Like we didn't always see eye to eye on things. I was
Mm-hmm.
always way more image conscious and wanted to wear costumes and do like bigger stuff like that.
Right.
They typically wanted to wear hoodies and jeans, and we just it was an uneven image.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as I started to progress as a producer, and I started to look at the market out there, I realized that bands were a little passe at that point in terms of, well, most people are going into DJ culture. Most people are going into, more produced music. I think bands are great. I'll never have a problem with bands. I like that Villains can be a band,
Right.
right? I like that. I think it's cool. It keeps it fresh. From day one, my intention with V is for Villains was to hold control and
Mm-hmm.
to never let another bandmate keep us from doing what we wanted to do. That's a
Right.
big power dynamic and a big struggle that comes with being in a band that people don't realize is that you can have
Yeah.
5 painfully talented musicians that are
Mm-hmm.
ambitious. And if the 5th out of 5 is not showing up to the party, you're all
Mm-hmm.
screwed. And
Yeah.
I hated that dynamic. I came to find in Digital Mindy, I was doing 90% of the work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
As you can hear if you've listened to that work, it still sounds mostly like stuff I would write, just a
Right.
lot less polished.
Right.
So I kind of weighed the pros and cons and said, I'm going to strike out on my own, do something that interests me, that I think is exciting, gives me an excuse to wear a costume and run around the city. I always
Right.
love that. So for me, it started off as something I was calling Villains for Hire, with
Mm-hmm.
the concept being that each villain is a mercenary and will take the job that works for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that way we're letting our audience know up front, you're going to see the guy in the top hat 99.9% of the time, and the rest of
Mm-hmm.
them can change around, you
Right.
know. And we stayed very true to that vision. We had a version of the band for a while that was a pretty solid 4 of us,
Mm-hmm.
and even that fluctuated up and down and had people in and out around
Right.
them. And I think really the main impetus was just being able to continue performing,
Yeah.
to allow your band to adapt to the cultural circumstances around it, instead of being like, well, we can't do that because the drummer decided he was going to be a dickhead.
Right.
Like those things affect you as a group. And I've had instances that are exactly that. The drummer was a dickhead, and then I ended up having to move
Yeah.
things around, and it blew a year's worth of work for me that I really spent my time and energy and money into doing. And things like that happen, and you can either lay down and die with it, or you can just say, okay, well, now we're going back to drum machine and keyboards. you know so that was really the main impetus, was just the versatility, being able to perpetually adapt to
Mhm.
whatever the circumstances are, you know?
All right. Next question. What is the most memorable show that you've played, if you could pick one?
See, that's a loaded question.
Okay.
I can't choose one. It's not
Okay.
possible. I think there are some shows that I've done that are less memorable, in the sense that, like, I know they happened, but they were
Right.
pretty standard, you know, run of the mill. Like, hey, we went, we did a good job. Things, you know, nothing broke, no one broke, nothing
Mhm.
exploded. Hey, man, great. You know,
You
I
know, you
like
break
those
your backs.
shows. I didn't break my back this time.
Yeah.
Right. I like those shows because it means we did our job and you didn't see the wizard behind the curtain.
Mhm.
You know, as much as, you know, we got play and some traction off of me breaking my back on stage, and yeah, it's memorable. I don't feel particularly great about it,
No.
because, you know, the show got ruined.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I'm
don't
glad
know.
we kept it
Flynn did a good
going.
job filling in for you, I think.
He thanks you, I promise. Um, no, I mean, and I was glad that he did. You know, that's the whole point, right? Like, he was able to just slide in and keep it rolling, you
Right.
know, as much as it could. He didn't stop, and I think that's the most important part. That's the most admirable thing.
Mhm.
So to me, it's I can't pick one. I can pick moments that I've loved. You
Mhm.
know, like playing Dragon Con was amazing. I loved doing Dragon Con. That was
Mhm.
so much fun. You know, just to see a sea of people like that, and they're dancing and screaming and having a good time. That's just it's a world class event. I loved doing I mean, we did Anime Midwest for years,
Mhm.
you know, through all of its ups and downs. And, you know, it's just, that was always a lot of fun to play. Dark Force Fest was amazing to play.
That was great.
You know, it was a
I mean, I
great
was there. Of course, it
show.
was great, but
That's what made it.
oh yeah.
We did Steampunk World's Fair, was the very first convention we ever did.
Mhm.
And same deal, ups and downs, ebbs and flows, you know,
Right.
but it was a fun thing to do. I really enjoyed the show. You know, I to me, if the crowd is having fun, just the best show I've ever done. You
Yeah.
know, like, every time. Like, if they're having a good time, then I feel great. The only things I don't like are,
Mhm.
you know, the feeling of it could have been more, but it wasn't, or, like, you know, we didn't connect, or, you know,
Right.
because you, as a professional, you're gonna have those nights, whether you want to or not.
Mhm.
There are gonna be some nights where, for whatever reason, I don't blame the crowd. I don't maybe even necessarily blame us. Sometimes the connection's just not there, and you're both
Right.
just kind of like, oh, hi, you know, it's weird. But for the most part, we've had way fewer of those than the successes, and I'm talking 1%. So, like,
Mhm.
I feel pretty good about it. So I can't choose one. There have just been so many crazy moments and fun things, and, you know, to
Okay.
sound cliche as hell, I've been pretty blessed to be able to do this at all. So it's pretty,
No, for sure.
every time I go out there feels like a win.
All right. What is the weirdest experience, like fan experience, you've had?
No comment.
Have
Look,
you got
I'm
a
not
weird
gonna
one you can
lie.
talk about?
I'm not gonna lie. You know, I've had so many. I've had so many things that, like, you know, kind of, I want to say make me uncomfortable, but I don't know if they make me uncomfortable as much as I'm just kind of baffled. I think I'm more baffled. I
Yeah.
will say this, you know, I appreciate the fans that come to the shows and repost, and I appreciate that they're excited and enthusiastic about it.
Right.
You know, to me, that's the most important thing. Look at me, for God's sakes. You know, like, I'm not putting sanity out there. So, like, you know, I get it. Like, who would I be to judge anybody else? I think, for me, I don't know if weird, but probably the most uncomfortable things are things that I've even seen recently,
Mhm.
when people who were fans at some point claim that they know me, or claim that things happened that didn't. Those
Right.
things leave a really bad taste in my mouth, because obviously I'm me. So I
Yeah.
know where I've been and what I've done. So it's easy
Right.
for me to read some of those things and go like, what? Like we saw recently some shit posting popping up from some people that were saying things like, "Oh yeah, the lead singer of Villains. When he and I used to hang out, I always felt uncut." I'm like, who the fuck are you? What do you mean when we used to hang out? I don't even know you. I don't think we've ever even met. You know,
Yeah.
it's just weird shit like that that pops up. That's the kind of fan interaction I don't like, because it's not
Yeah.
grounded in realism. It's not grounded in the love of art. It's not
Right.
grounded in, nuance or excitement. That kind of thing is just shit talking for the sake of, hey, look, I knew the guy. Like, you don't know me at all. You know,
Exactly.
that kind of thing, not a fan of. But everything else, I'm pretty cool with. I do get a really huge kick out of the positivity. And once again, these little assholes that I'm talking about, they're the 1%.
Yeah.
They barely even register. 99% is just the kindest, gentlest, most awesome people that,
For sure.
have nothing but kind things to say to us and truly appreciate the effort that we put into creating a safe and exciting experience for them. That I love. And so at this point, I think in my career, I just don't focus on bullshit. I stick
Yeah.
to the people that deserve my time. The people that deserve my time are the ones who get art and care about it. So,
That makes sense.
yeah,
And the ones who make crazy memes about you on a weekly basis.
that's perfectly normal. I don't print them out and keep them in my bathroom everywhere. It's fine.
All right. What do you think is the biggest struggle you're facing, like as a musician?
As a musician,
Mm,
um, I think I could give a stock bullshit answer and say like, oh, the art or like the no. I think the same struggle that I'm facing is the same struggle that every musician faces,
mm,
especially every musician that's over 22. And
mm.
that is staying relevant, staying
Yeah.
live. Those are the things that are the true struggle. It's continuing to create art in a way that is feasible, that is exciting, that is not dumbed down, and that you can afford to create.
Mm,
This business it's a tough business. And you're seeing that on the other side for actors, producers, directors, it's not much better. I mean,
right.
look at the strikes going on right now are insane.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything but support it as an artist and look at that and say, I get it. I wouldn't want somebody like AIing my likeness to hell either. you know
Exactly.
that's crazy. But I think as a musician, the struggle really comes down to finding a balance between
Mm,
creating art for the sake of art versus for profit. Because you have to profit. If you don't profit, you don't
right.
survive. I can't bring this show to all of you unless we have the money in the gas tank to get there. You
Right.
guys buying tickets, buying merch puts money in that gas tank to get me there. That's what I care about. I'm not that guy that's like, oh, cool, thanks for buying me a PlayStation, kids. I don't give a shit
Yeah.
about that. The biggest thing to me is getting there and giving you the better show,
Mm,
the best show that I can possibly provide. And I've even had people in the past kind of say, all he cares about is money. That's not all I care about,
right.
like, for sure. But I care about it because I have to, because
Exactly.
I live in the same world that you do. And just like you, I gotta buy bread, man.
Absolutely. All right. What's your current like go to songs? Like not your music. Like you're out driving around. What are you listening to?
I just listen to myself. No, I'm kidding. Um, I'm driving around. I've kind of rediscovered Mother Mother a little bit. Pretty cool
Mm,
band. I like some of their stuff. I am a big fan of like Nights Arab. Love Nights Arab. Love
mm.
Das Ish. I like a lot of industrial, a lot of electronic stuff. I listen to a lot of K-Flay. I like K-Flay a lot, if I could even say her name correctly. Um, I like Ramstein. I like the Prodigy. Like in terms of songs, I've got a playlist on Spotify called
Mm.
Driving 2015. that I've been updating since 2015 with every song that I like. That
That's
just pops
great.
into my head. Like, oh, it's Driving 2015. And I like that there are songs from the 70s and Driving 2015 that I'm listening to in 2023. You know, it works for me. I think it's
Got
right
the
on
whole
the
time
money.
travel thing going on.
Right, exactly. So, you know, it varies a lot. I mean, I listen to a lot of film scores. I listen to a lot of classical. I
Mhm.
just like everything, you know. And I know that's a broad, stupid answer, but it's just the truth. I'm a big fan of, you know, I like rap, I like hip hop, I like rock, I like industrial. I feel like when people tell me that they only like one thing, it just doesn't seem right. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You know, you like a lot of shit. But yeah, I've been listening to that. I've been listening to some Skinned recently. Like
Okay.
Skinned,
Yeah.
pretty cool, good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any like I've been trying to figure this out for a while. Why do you
Mhm.
think Evolve or Die sold out and the physical copy became such a like collector's item among villains?
Well, I think there are a lot of reasons for that. I
Mm.
think that I mean, Villains Never Die is sold out now. Um, Murder in the Art's not far behind it.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah,
I feel
it's
like
not
Evolve or Die
honestly.
just sold out like so quickly, though.
It feels like it did, but no, we worked on selling that album from 2012 to like 2016.
Okay.
So it was about 4 years. Um, so it feels fast, but no, it was a couple thousand copies that
Mm.
sold out over about a 4 year period. And I honestly think that most of that's because look at the time frame.
Mm.
When we pressed Evolve or Die, CDs were dying.
Mm.
You know, when we pressed Murder in the Art in 2017 and put it out, nobody was buying CDs. It was done.
Mm.
You know, I think the CDs that we do now sell a little bit slower just because most people are like, what the hell is this? Or they're like, I don't even have a CD player in my car. I get
Mm.
that. Most of the people that buy our CDs now, they're for collectors, and that's about it. They're not typically buying it to listen to it. And I get that, you know.
Okay.
Um,
I'm just an outlier. I buy them, I throw them on my computer, I rip them, I download it on my phone, I
I
download
love
all
it.
my other
I think it's
shit.
great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think
No.
there's anything wrong with having physical media. Like I said, I even have right here on cassette a Steel the 80s, you
Yeah.
know? So I'm a believer in it. Like I like physical media. I like having something that a kid can come see the show and walk away with in their
For
hands. I
sure.
think it's just a different
Absolutely,
feeling,
Alex.
you know? And I love to have that. I love to have that available. But I'm a believer. I understand Spotify kills it. You know, that's
Mm.
what people listen to. And we really, you know, us and, 99 out of 100 bands out there don't really make much of anything on Spotify.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a hard market to penetrate. And, you know, hence the creation of Villains in general. Your merchandise is more your product, your albums, not so much.
Mm.
And that's okay. I would rather more people listen to my music, you know? Um, so yeah, I think that's really more so what it was. I don't think it's a
Okay.
mark of quality. I get it from all different fans. Evolve or Die is my favorite. Murder in the Art's my favorite.
Mm.
Villains Never Die is my favorite. I don't think I've ever had one overtake the other, honestly. I mean, there have even been times where I've been surprised. Where
Mm.
I've been like, really? That one? Oh, okay. You know, cool. Glad you like it. You know?
All right. Well, I feel like we're kind of in this topic. So, for anyone watching who doesn't know this, for every album Mr. Agitator's put out, there's an equal number of songs he didn't put out. Nick, why is that? Why don't you release all your B-side stuff?
You know, there are a couple of reasons. One, because I've actually reused B-sides from other things,
Mm.
and they've become villain songs. A World Without Rules on Evolve or Die is a B-side from Digital Mindy,
Okay.
which was called Reprogram Everything at the time. And we played it a couple of times
Oh,
live.
look, it's Mr. Daditator.
It's Dagitator. Hi, Dagitator. I you know, I don't want to always kind of give up the ghost on the albums, you know. Like
Mm.
I feel like on the B-side work anyway, I feel like they could resurface later. That's one
Mm.
reason. The other reason is, they didn't make the cut because they weren't that good. They're okay. Some of them I've heard people say like, "Oh, that's great, I love it." Most of it, it's a
Mhm.
B-side for a reason. It's because it got weighed against the other works, and I said, "Nah, those are better." And I think Murder in the Art was a really big learning experience for me of, maybe don't throw every ingredient into the stew.
Mhm.
It's a pretty long work. I'm not ripping it. I'm proud of it. I like
Right.
what I did with it, but it's also 15 tracks that could have been 10, and it probably would
Mhm.
have worked, or probably would have played a little better in my opinion. But I think once again there were 15 tracks on that album and about 15 B-sides
Mhm.
for Murder in the Art, and some of them were really good. One of them ended up on the digital release of Villains Never Die, which was A Quiet Plague, which was the
Okay.
instrumental track. That was originally written for Murder in the Art. So that's
Okay.
why I typically don't share, because I'm like, well, maybe this will come back and it'll feel appropriate for something later.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Right. Do you think that you'll ever do a Digital Mindy revival? I know you've been asked it before, but I'm asking anyway.
We were just talking about it the other day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really were. John and I were discussing it. We should do Digital Mindy again. We should do something
You
Digital
should.
Mindy-esque.
You
Yeah, it's
should.
been a long time. It's been almost 10 years since we've done a Digital Mindy show,
Mm-hmm.
and even longer since we stopped doing the band. So, I don't know if there'd be a ton of interest for it, but I think it'd be fun.
I'm
You
fucking
know, nice. To me, it's all kind of the same thing. It's just a little bit more comfortable outfit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Let's see.
um,
Your father says to ask you about Jesus the song.
Jesus, oh my God. Thanks. Jesus, back in like 2002 or one,
Mm-hmm.
2000 even, maybe. It was a long time ago. I was kind of learning how to write songs, and I wrote a song called Jesus that was just horrible. It was a horrible song. It was just me going like, Jesus! It was bad. It's really bad song. I was still kind of like fumbling around and just trying to figure out how to do anything. But it was
Mm.
kind of a cool world back then. It was a really cool time to come into music because home recording boom had just happened, and you
Mm.
could like make high quality stuff at home. It was an awesome time. I loved having the freedom to experiment and learn that way.
All right. If you couldn't make music, what creative outlet would you pursue?
Mm, I don't know. Um, I do some other stuff. I mean, like I love leather working. Is great,
Right.
even though I'm not a particularly artistic person. Uh, you know, uh, I feel like I would love to write comic books or,
Mm-hmm.
do something in that world, like maybe write a great graphic novel or I don't know. I've always, when I was younger, when I was like a
Mm-hmm.
kid, I used to make up stories and write them all the time. Like I had a whole list of revolving characters that I would use, and they had their own little backstories. And
Mm-hmm.
I would sit there and I would just write and write and write and write. And it wasn't very good, but I would do it. And I don't know. Maybe I would delve into the writing world a little bit. It's something I've even thought about now, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Probably something in the writing world, I would think.
Okay. Justice says say macrame.
Macrame.
All right.
Macrame. Cheese grater.
Cheese grater. All right. Are you working on anything new right now?
Yes. The
You want
answer
to
is
tell us
very,
anything, or is that still top
very
secret?
strong yes. I can tell you some stuff. I started writing a few songs about a year ago. We've written some stuff in between. Pretty cool. I think
Mm.
it's good. I'm excited about it. I really can't wait to share. I know I've shared some of it, which is looking like it's going to be the title track from the album, which is
Mm.
Always the Savior, Never the Saved. And, I know we've played that live a few times, which has been fun. But outside of that, yeah, I've written a few other tracks. I've got a couple that are in development on top of that. And I don't know, we're discussing what to do with it. You know, one of the tracks that I wrote, we had the very lovely, talented Gigi Edgley guest vocal on, and she sent in some tracks that I really liked. So we may continue to shape that out and work on it at the same time. I don't know. I think, you know, I don't think I'll ever stop writing albums.
Yeah.
I think as long as I'm alive, I'll keep working on albums. I'm thinking for this one, though, we may just like release it digitally and then an album later. I you know, only because we've never done it that way. So I think it might be fine to kind of try a different water. But it's all up in the air. There are some pretty cool tracks on it that I'm excited about. And I'm working on some other stuff too, you know, just on the personal level. I've been scoring a couple of movies and stuff and some different stuff here and there. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And we're also working on kind of a potential show for Dark Force Fest in 2025 potentially. So we'll see about that. But I'll announce that as we get closer to it. But it's a pretty fun idea, and the tracks that I'm working on for it are shaping up pretty nicely. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome. All right. Any guesstimate when you might have this new album done? I know that's always the weird question for you because you have no idea. But
I never know. I mean, you know, sometimes like I'll sit on stuff for 5 months and just won't go back to it. And then I'll go back and I'll listen when I've got a little more time, and then I'll have different ideas.
Yeah.
To me, I would rather not rush it. You know, I know that's death for musicians nowadays because in the YouTube, Spotify world, it's like you got to get a track out every month. And that's just never been my grind. I don't know. Maybe that'll change. Maybe this will be the first thing that I preload and then release a track every month or something. Might be kind of fun to do that even. I don't know. I still believe in the album pretty heavily. I like the full work, you know.
Same.
So, you know, when, I don't know, you know, maybe next year, maybe early next year, maybe next fall, maybe before then, maybe now. No. We'll see.
All right. Do you have any shows coming up that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to be August 18th. We're going to be at Colossal Con in Texas, playing at the Kalahari. We're going to be playing in the events room on Friday night, I believe, at 9 p.m. And then on Saturday night, we'll be playing at 8 p.m. So we're going to be doing that show. That's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah,
nice.
That's the next one.
All right. All right. Where can people follow you and find all your stuff?
You can find us on visforvillains.com. Very exciting. We launched a new visforvillains.com. It was built exclusively by Morgan Dark, using graphics by Colonel Gunn and Morgan Dark. So it's very cool work she did. You know, I thought she knocked the website out of the park.
No, I think it looks great.
I'm excited. Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it looks great too. And she's going to be taking a more active role in the creation of our graphics, our promo videos. Okay. You know, we're really good Batman and Robin team over here. Very back-to-back dynamic duo style fighting. So I'm very lucky to have her on my side. I think she's going to be a permanent addition to the Villain Brigade for quite some time. So, you know, you can find us on that website. You can find us on Facebook at VS for Villains. You can find us on Twitter. I mean, X.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. You can find us on X. Could you imagine if I had like straight edge X's on my hands? Like, how cool is that? You can find us on Twitter X at VS Village. You can find us on Instagram. We're everywhere, man. We're all around. Google VS for Villains. You'll find me, baby.
All right. And last but not least, what do you want to tell your fans?
Cheese grater.
All right. All right.
Are we done? No.
All right.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Hey.
Hi. All right. Well,
what was?
All right. What? What do you have?
What? No, I'm fucking with you. I gotta stop.
Okay. All right. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Agitator. This was a lot of fun.
The pleasure was mine, friends.
Absolutely. And if you want to hang out after we're off the air, don't go nowhere.
I'm hanging, baby. I'm hanging.
All right.